Thunder bombs. Wes still has thunder bombs.
There's a frog riding a car. There's a frog in a car.
What is he doing? He's just driving around town?
Welcome, gamers, to Super Beard Bowl Season 2. Each month, we're doing an all-new 8-episode series complete with a beginning and an end, as voted on by you, our loyal viewers. Without paying a single penny, everyone who watches will be able to vote on one of 4 show ideas, and once you narrow it down from 4 to 2, the Beard Bowl Patreon tier will then choose between the top 2 for which show gets made into a full 8-episode series. This month, the winning series is Beard Bros Movie Reviews. Brett, Jirard, and Alex watch and review movies that you guys thought they might enjoy. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
The next public vote begins Monday, September 14.
So until then, just sit back, relax, and enjoy another incredible episode of Super Beard Bowl.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beard Bros movie review. It's your boy Jirard and Brett, and here today. We are here to talk about...
You're chuckling already.
Yes, I'm trying to... Here's the thing. I think people like this film.
They do.
They do. So I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Why?
As I've learned
Why?
over
What are
the
you trying to
years.
avoid?
I'm not trying to avoid anything other than people just being mean to me.
Sure.
For having an opinion. But today we're talking about the original Resident Evil film that came out in the year 2002.
Yeah.
I was 14 years old when this movie came out.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And I was desperate as hell to see it in theaters. I was not old enough because it was a rated R film.
You didn't have nobody to take you?
No, I believe I went and saw this. Al's mom took myself and I to go see it.
Yourself
if I
and just
correctly.
left Al there, just two of you.
I mean, I said Al and myself.
You said myself and I.
Oh my goodness. It's a morning, you guys. I messed everything up today on the Beard Bros side. Brett, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. I remember seeing this in theaters. I don't remember with whom. I think it was my grandmother. I don't know how I made that happen, but I think it did. I could be wrong, but I definitely saw it in theaters. And I too was desperate to see it. Like this was an important. This was important to us because, as I was, I'm sure that you were a big fan of the franchise. Just to give you guys a little bit of context, back then we're talking 2002. So the latest thing that we got, I think, was like Code Veronica. We hadn't
after we got the RE1 port on GameCube.
Oh, you're right. So I don't know. They both came out that year. The Resident Evil remake came out that year, the same year as the movie. I don't know which came out first, but that'll give you a good idea about where the franchise was. It was like the first 4 games in the series, roughly. You know, maybe some spin-offs here and there, and right around that same time was the remake. So Resident Evil was still very much in its nascency, kind of. But you have to understand that, like the franchise. The picture of the franchise was much more consistent than it is today at the time. At the time, the picture of the franchise was much more consistent. The types of enemies you were dealing with and the types of tones. Now, of course, the series was always trending towards more adrenaline and action as it got on. It started off pretty subtle, then it got less and less subtle. So that trend started happening, and then I think this movie was a big reason why the trending towards action and an exciting tone and the abandonment of the core mechanics and honestly values of the original Resident Evil franchise. I think this movie's a big reason why that shift got shifted into Turbo when it did.
Well, I think too, for the matter of this conversation, Resident Evil 4 has not been released yet in the context of what this movie is.
Correct.
And Code Veronica, however, was definitely shifting more towards action, even though there's a lot of puzzles in that game.
You're right. But like I said, even before,
stuff.
like, there was more action in 2 compared to 1, 3 compared to 2, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
like, I agree with you. But, like, it was a trend, right? Mm-hmm. It was a trend. But I agree with you that, like, the big shift came between Code Veronica and the 4, which in this movie lies in that time. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, we all remember, right? Like, the fucking the quick time event in 4 where Leon's in the fucking hallway and he has to avoid the lasers. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not an accident. Like, that's not two people independently. That wasn't like Paul W.S. Anderson on one side and fucking some game developers at Capcom. Like, they didn't have that thought independently. One is a clear reference to the other.
They did not have conversations with one another at all about this stuff, and you can definitely tell. Especially because this is the first of 6 films. There are 6 Resident Evil films. There's Resident Evil Apocalypse, Resident Evil Extinction, Resident Evil Afterlife, Resident Evil Retribution, and Resident Evil The Final Chapter.
I'd be more impressed with that if you weren't clearly reading off a list, but I'm glad you are, because I don't want you to know all those names. I don't want you to.
They all just sound like alternate titles of one another.
Yeah, because they mean nothing. Like, that's... I mean... Oh, man. All right, I guess I'll get into it. So this movie, like, make no mistake, it's a fun time, but, like, I swear, anytime someone goes, like, oh, it's a popcorn movie, or it was good for what it was, or it's a fun time, all of those are so obvious they don't need to be stated for most films, and the bar is so low for that it's almost not worth saying. Saying that a film is, like, it's fun, it's like, yeah, it's also a movie. Like that's baseline what it should be. So, like, I shouldn't praise a movie for being fun. So I don't praise a movie for being fun, and I won't praise this one for being fun. That being said, yeah, it's fun. That being said, like, it's very to me, it's very clear that this film, you guys at home have to understand this if you've never seen it, which, like, we're getting to that point where a lot of people might not have seen it. Like, you know, like I said, our generation, we grew up playing those games originally, and we were the, like, prime demographic for these films age-wise, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but there's lots of younger people out there that, like, just may have completely missed the franchise because they don't give a fuck. Just like I hear people are like, I don't know, I never played a Resident Evil game. And I'm like, what? You know? So, for those of you who don't know, this movie, it is the first Resident Evil film in the franchise, but it very, like, the plot that it follows has almost nothing to do with the first film. The first game. As a matter of fact, the plot of this film, the premise, has nothing to do with, I think, any film or game in the franchise. Is that correct? Would you say that?
Yes. I mean, they try and softly veil that this is more attuned to the first one, but
the plots are so different.
They're very, very different.
There's parallels, right? So the basic premise of this movie, for those of you who don't know, is that there's some stuff goes down in an underground lab, a shady pharmaceutical company that's very rich and powerful. They have a giant underground secret lab, and zombie virus gets fucking released in that lab, and so they send down basically a squad of, like, they're not Marines, but they're like Marine equivalents. I think they're mercenaries. I think they're secret soldiers, like soldiers of fortune. So they send those people down along with, I think, along with 2 or 3 amnesiac characters.
I think 2.
2, yeah.
It's Milla and Milla's husband.
But there's also the other guy who's amnesiac.
Who? Which guy was it?
There's 2 amnesiac people. There's her and her husband, and then the's the other guy.
There's the cop.
Is he a cop?
Yeah, he's not with stars, but he's with RPD.
Stars. Well, yeah. So there's the point is there's also other characters that happen to be there because they were nearby, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go down to try and investigate what happened. That's the premise of the film, which is similar, but not exactly like the premise of the first game.
I can tell this movie is so Hollywood because the poster art for the film is starring Milla Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez, and both of them are credited of the top billing and are on the poster at the same time. And the reason why I say that is because Michelle Rodriguez plays such a minor role in this film till the end.
Well, hold on, minor? Like
she's like she's not a main character. She's a very much a supporting character.
But that's fair enough on that. But I guess my question is like, who are the main characters then? Milla Jovovich, the other amnesiac guy that she's kind of crushing on, and who else? Her husband? Is that it? Are those the main characters?
I would say that her husband and that cop character and the guy in charge of the special forces.
But see, that's the thing. First of all, I think that character, you never learn his fucking name in the movie. I think they like drop it like off screen once. I think his name is One, which is kind of shitty, but also kind of hardcore to just have your name be One. The leader of the special forces, is he a main? How is he a main character? How is he a main character?
You're gonna argue that Michelle Rodriguez is more important than him?
But what does that mean? Let's talk about it. What does that mean important? Like, what does that mean? Like
who drives the plot?
Who drives the plot?
Who physically is like
the zombies? Like the fucking zombies.
Okay, yes, the zombies do that because there's zombies in the outbreak.
No one has any agency in this film aside from like the mercs, but they all have the same agency. Like they're all one fucking glom of a fucking unit.
Wouldn't you say that the leader of the mercs is the one calling the shots? We have to go to this to do this to do this.
That doesn't mean he's a main character. Like that's like saying Apone in Aliens is a main character. He's not. In fact, like the equivalents between the parallels between Apone and One are so strong. Like black leader of a fucking squad that thinks they're all hot shit and get dropped because they're overconfident when they go into a hive of some shit they've never seen before. And that like leader gets dropped like very fucking early to specifically to demoralize the rest of the unit for the rest of the film. The hell no One is not a main character. Just because he's in charge, yeah, I think Michelle Rodriguez is more of a main character than he is. Like considering like, you know, like the extra attention she gets, you know what I mean? Let me ask you this. Did you know his name?
No, but you're not supposed to know most people's names.
Really? Are you sure?
Do you remember all of the teammates' names?
Like God, most of them. Oh God, no.
Most of them die when they first introduced.
That's
Some
true.
of them die throughout the progress, and then all of them die in the laser grid, except for Michelle Rodriguez's character.
No, like there's a lot of them that live past the laser grid. Like Michelle Rodriguez lives, and the Hacker Man lives. Remember Hacker Man?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Like,
but I gotta work for your meal.
Right, that guy. Like, my point is that, like, even though he's in charge, like, he's basically a non-character. That guy. He's only there to like make everybody panic when he dies.
See, it's weird. I don't see how. I don't know. We're getting stuck on something really small.
That's the point of this show. Let's talk about it. Talk to me.
I think I just don't see like Michelle Rodriguez's character, in my opinion, has just as much depth as generic Merc number 4.
But I agree with you. The problem, Jirard, is that character depth does not define who the main character is. It should in an ideal world, but it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Right. What I'm referring to main character is advertising and top billing. Like Michelle Rodriguez's character.
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez's character, in my opinion, does not need. If you removed her character from this film, nothing would change. The events would still take place.
I mean, roughly. Yeah.
Like nothing would be impacted. There wouldn't need to be a rewrite of a character. She did not need to be in this movie. She was in this movie because they needed stars in this film aside from Milla Jovovich, and she was coming hot off of the Fast and the Furious films. she's in this movie because of it. She's typing because of it, and she doesn't make sense because of it. And what's worse is that they bring her back in the later Resident Evil movies, and she still
once again, like,
does not make sense to be in these movies.
We can both agree that Milla Jovovich like deserves to be on the cover. She's the main character, right?
Yeah.
But besides her, who else do you think should be on the fucking poster of this movie?
I think it should just be her. Like, she is literally the only main character in this film, in my opinion.
That's the thing, though. I don't think she is the
only.
only main character. Like, there are main characters in this film. I think what you're saying is there's no other satisfying main characters. And I don't even think Milla Jovovich is a satisfying main character.
I don't think she's a satisfying main character by any means.
That's my point. You're like, you don't think that Michelle Rodriguez belongs on the poster. And I'm like, well, if Milla Jovovich belongs on the poster, then so does she, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
Ultimately, regardless of who the fuck is on the poster or who's credited as the main character, this film does not establish well enough characters to make me care about who's on the poster.
You know what I think
the reason why I brought it up was because Michelle Rodriguez is not in the film as much as some of the other characters in the movie, and clearly it's Hollywood doing their own version of, we need people you recognize from the industry to watch this film, generic moviegoer that has nothing about Resident Evil.
That's super real. That's real.
That's why I was bringing it up. More important. I was like, this is why she's on the poster.
It's real, but like, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm hard pressed to think of another character who like should be up there besides her. Like, I don't know.
You're right.
A zombie or two. I don't fucking know. Right.
I mean, it would probably sell a lot more, in my opinion, for the anticipation of this, because if you look at the poster, it tells you nothing about this movie other than there's a woman in a red dress with a gun, and there's another woman who also looks like she's in a red dress, but it's not. It's like a different outfit that's not red.
I think the poster is indicative of what I think is one of the main, I don't want to say problems with this movie. It's not the main problem, but I do think it was something that it's an issue that Hollywood, I think, is only now starting to get over, but it only gives way to another problem. What I wrote down was, this film and its series are a perfect example of the lack of Hollywood's previous, or it's like the Hollywood used to have a lack of faith in source material when it came to a lot of things. I think that's starting to change now. What with the advent of these fucking superhero films. However, I think it's giving way to another problem that is even visible in the later entries in this franchise, which is, and I think the problem is just, a problem that a lot of people are already aware of, is just Hollywood's complete bankruptcy when it comes to creativity. Because this film, so let's go back to the first thing. They don't have faith, right? Like, this film takes a lot of liberties with the Resident Evil franchise. I don't personally think there's anything wrong with that. I think, certain things can be changed when it comes to the adaptation, and certain things should be changed when it comes to adaptations for film. This movie took very little from the first game, from any game in the series, and I think that has to do with lack of faith in the source material. That's something that story, as fucking wackadoo as the Resident Evil 1 story is, I think Hollywood looked at that and like, this will never work. Make something else. Yeah, and whatever, I don't care. Sure, fine. But do you remember? And I'm like, we probably shouldn't get into like all these other fucking films, many of which I still haven't seen, but I've looked up trailers and seen synopses. I feel like every subsequent film in this franchise, and you'd be able to tell this better than I would, scrapes more and more from the source material barrel of these video games. Because I remember seeing the second one. The second one had, was basically the plot of the fucking third game ish, right?
The second one, in my opinion, is the closest in recognizing its source material.
Okay.
In letting the source material drive what you're seeing in the universe of this franchise. and it kind of combines Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3
right.
into one film, which works for what they presented. Resident Evil 2, in my opinion, is the strongest out of all of these films.
But I remember as the franchise goes on, it's not like they go back to the first formula and keep doing their own thing, completely original. I feel like every film in this franchise subsequent scrapes more and more and goes like, all right, let's add this element and these characters from the games that they're just dropped into it. Like eventually like
Correct.
Leon and Claire and all those motherfuckers come in. And once again,
Leon, Claire, Chris, Wesker, all of them. Jill's in the second film.
And I think that has to do with just the creative bankruptcy. I feel like the people behind this franchise never really knew what to do with it. Like they got handed a name that was big and they tried to do their own thing. And then when it became so successful and popular, they were like, we got to keep making these things, but you don't want to have to keep making up your own shit. And instead of like, let's see what we can keep scraping and let's see what we can keep repurposing, you know?
So let's talk about this for a second.
Okay.
Paul W.S. Anderson. He is the main creative force behind
the whole
these
franchise.
Films. The whole franchise. He met Milla Jovovich on these films. He made her a star out of these films, and they got married in 2009.
They got married on the film. And I mean, do you know any fun facts about Paul W.S. Anderson before I go on? About him and Capcom? It sounds like you're about to tell me some trivia right now. Is that what's about to happen?
I am going to tell you a little bit of trivia.
Okay.
And take it for what it's worth, because there's a direct correlation as to why he got the ability to direct these films.
Go on.
It wasn't Capcom. I messed it up. He directed Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And the success of Mortal Kombat propelled his career into being in the driver's seat for this. He was very adamant about trying to get people to take video games seriously, which is ironic because in the end, these films take the franchise and name seriously, but don't take any of the source material or any of the driving force behind why people love these games to the nth degree level. It's very interesting that I mean him and Milla Jovovich getting together is like not indicative of like I mean they clearly had a creative vision for this franchise as a couple. You can see that this franchise, including this film, becomes a bit of a female empowerment movement, which is great because Alice, the main character, becomes, in my opinion, she's strong in this movie because of her inability to like understand what's going on, and she becomes strong because she remembers who she is, and she's like a combat monster, and that kind of like she's a combat monster becomes the moving motif throughout this entire franchise. And I think that's my only thing I like about these films is that I like Alice's characterization and her never ending struggle and battle to never give up on becoming a zombie. Like
I gotta let you rock on that one, dog, because like I couldn't care less about this fucking character. She literally starts out as an amnesiac who like doesn't know what's going on. What? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me be clear. As far as a character who wants and wants to experience change and knows what she wants to go through, and none of that is important. She's not conveyed at all. The only thing I like about her is just like her unwillingness to die. That's the only thing that I like out of these movies, and I like out of Alice. I think everything else about Alice and how they framed her and her specific goals and wants and needs throughout these entire films are all over the place and make zero fucking sense. And I'm baffled that Capcom. Well, I'm not baffled. They like money. These movies made money. Let's be real. They all made money. They're continuing to make money, and they've made Capcom so much money that Paul W.S. Anderson and Milla Jovovich are doing the Monster Hunter movie, which has been in production for quite some time. But yeah, Brett, take it away. You were gonna talk about how.
No, I was just talking about like it sounded like you said that you liked her character, and
no. I just like her drive of the drive of I don't want to die. That's the only thing I've liked.
I suppose that the desire to not want to die is an admirable virtue. I suppose so. Yeah, I too feel that. I feel that. Look, like I said, this movie is fun, but like fucking so is a hacky sack. I think I found a line very bold, like right at the end, where they like very muffled and almost like Dark Knight Rises Bane voice. Motherfucking doctor's looking at your boy with the buff spikes on his head when he has like
the Nemesis Project.
Yeah, I want him in the Nemesis program.
Yeah.
It's like, and I couldn't help but think to myself when I watched this movie the other day, I was like, wow,
my man Sabretooth.
That's bold, Cotton. Like, that's a bold move. Because like at the time, because look, it read to me as a more subtle version of the thing that a lot of movies do. Mac and Me did it when they're like at the end of the movie when they're driving off into the sunset. It's like Mac and Me, they'll return. They never return. Or like the Mario Brothers movie where Daisy kicks a door and I'm like, guys, you're never gonna believe what happened. Nothing happened because there was no more. This movie similarly was like, I want him in the myth program, and it's like that could have been it. Like it's a bold move to in your untested movie be like, just you wait, motherfuckers. However, they were right with this one because this franchise is probably still not dead. I think that this movie did a lot to legitimize video game films, for better or for worse. Emphasis on the worse, in my opinion. And I'll tell you this much. At least I got to see a lady do a triangle jump off of a wall, kick a dog so hard in its face that its neck broke. That was a thing, you know.
This film's action is all right. It's pretty engaging, but ultimately, you're right. These film at this point in time, Resident Evil was moving towards action. But if you had shown me this film after Resident Evil 4, I would have been like, this makes a lot more sense. But prior to Resident Evil 4, the action wasn't nearly as high as this was. I was doing a little research before we started. Did you know that this was designed to be a prequel for the games? That was the intent.
I guess I didn't know that, but I can kind of like see it where they're like, this is how the outbreak started, dude.
I mean, this is more or less to me more closer to Resident Evil 0 than Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, in terms of like they both explain how an outbreak started. That's the only thing that they share in common. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. It's bold of them once again to be like, hey man, we're gonna explain how this whole game franchise kicked off right here. Sure, you know
that was actually the thing. There were the thing that really put a sour taste in my mouth of this movie is how much. And we talked about this a lot in Street Fighter, and I feel it's the same principle here in. Paul W.S. Anderson thinking that no one would understand the concept of a zombie outbreak, like Night of the Living Dead, that franchise. We've had so many zombie films out there that predate this, and to think that the audience is not going to understand that there are zombies because of a viral outbreak is just. It's just baffling to me.
So are you saying that you think that the writer included like the explanation for how the outbreak started so that the audience could know how the outbreak started? Is that what you're saying?
Not
because
so
a second ago you just said that this film was intended to be at some point a prequel to the game franchise explaining how the outbreak for the game franchise started. So which is it? Were they trying to like justify the games, or were they trying to do it because they thought the audience was dumb?
I mean, the difference between this is one is my insight and one is what I read on the Wikipedia page. Like one was the director's intent was this was supposed to be a prequel of sorts. And to me, my response to it is, well, I don't care whether or not it's a prequel. What I don't care about or don't like is the fact that like the movie is kind of assumes that we're just dumb as we watch it. It's a lot of spoon feeding.
That's for sure.
It's a lot of over explanation.
Yeah.
The fact that the phrase "My name is Alice" is one of the most iconic phrases to come out of this entire franchise is so bizarre, because every film starts with "My name is Alice" or incorporates that line somehow, some way, to talk about how Alice was like a former employee of the Umbrella Corporation and how the zombie outbreak started because of her and what happened in the first film. But it's very video gamey in the sense that we have a lot of shots where it's like showing them like bodies of humans running through hallways from zombies, and with the infrared stuff, a lot of like 3D looking at the hive, zooming in shots, showing their progress, almost like a video game, which I kind of see the intent of it, right? Is like our characters are moving along in progress. It's the Indiana Jones showing the map moving kind of thing, right? To illustrate that progress is being made and that characters are physically moving from one location to the other, except for the fact that we are in a bunker that isn't all that in depth based on what the film is showing us. So they have to show the little scenes of them, or in their minds rather, the little scenes of the character body outlines running away from zombies, so you see their progress throughout the hive. I don't know. In the end, I guess I feel that this movie specifically was very concerned about the watching person the watcher not understanding that a zombie outbreak is taking place and they need to be over-explained it. I think the reason they went into such detail about how it started is because it's a big plot point. It's a mystery. This movie is a mystery for a big part of it. It was like, how did the outbreak start? And eventually, as the characters uncover that, like, you know, I think that's the reason why. Like, as opposed to some better media that happens to have zombies in it, like Night of the Living Dead, there's hints in that movie about how the outbreak started, but it's certainly not like what the main characters are trying to figure out. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter that much. And unfortunately, what that movie is about, what the Night of the Living Dead movie is about, which is like worthwhile in exploring, isn't here in this film. And there's not much in this film at all to supplement that. At its core, this movie is about, like, you know, watching spectacle. I get that. I get that. So, like, do you have any like final thoughts, Jirard?
I don't know. I feel like we just talked about so much about the film and not the film itself.
What do you mean?
In terms of we didn't really talk too much on the plot point side.
Explain to the audience what happens in the movie?
No. Not like that, Brett. Come on. I'm talking about like.
Yeah. What do you mean?
We didn't talk about the Queen and how that plays a pivotal role in this film.
Yeah.
How it's
do you have feelings? Because I don't give a shit about the Queen.
You don't care about the Queen?
Fuck
you don't care
no.
that this robot is trying to prohibit the zombie apocalypse happening?
Do you have something to say about her?
Yeah, I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think it was an interesting choice that just got less and less interesting as time went on.
She was creepy.
and-
I'll give you that.
Yeah, you know, you're all going to die down here.
But it was mostly like the 2002 CGI that rendered this little girl. It's just freaky looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't have much to say about this fucking film because it's there ain't much there, man. You know, there's a zombie that looks like Eminem. Right? We all saw that guy.
That's true.
You okay?
What's your favorite part of the movie, Brett? The part that you actually enjoyed, if any,
part of the movie. Yeah, that's definitely. It's a very fleeting moment, but it's a very clear moment for me. It's the moment where the Umbrella soldiers are in like what looks like a server room, but it's actually like there's a bunch of bioweapons that never get unleashed. I think one of them does. And there's like mist on the floor. and slowly but surely, it's the moment when the promise of the film presents itself, and it's never delivered upon, but it's the closest we get, because the mercenaries are kind of surrounded in this like labyrinth type room. It's huge, and they slowly start to hear creepy noises come toward them, and we as the audience know it's fucking zombies, but they don't. And slowly but surely, like, these people, like the one or two of them present themselves, and they're like, stop right where you are, and they like unload on this woman, and she keeps coming, and then I think Michelle Rodriguez snaps like this zombie lady's neck, and there's this look on Michelle Rodriguez's face that is the look that I assume would be on a lot of our faces when you realize, oh shit, the dead are walking, right? Like, there's this look of like, motherfucker, are you serious? And I think that's the most relatable. It's the most relatable, and it's the most interesting moment of the film, is when these mercenaries realize we're hard asses, but we thought we were prepared for anything, but we're not. And basically, if you want a better version of that, just go watch Aliens, like, because that's like a movie that does that very well. But like, this movie apes Aliens just a tad, and I think the best moment it does that is that moment. That's my favorite moment of the film. What about you?
I think my favorite movie in the movie is the grid scene.
I mean, yeah, it's the most memorable. For sure.
The reason why I like it is because there's two reasons. One, it's probably the most urgency we have in the entire film. Like, this film is like Dead Rising is very much like we're on a timer of X amount of hours to get down into the system to get the cure, or to
blah 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 blah.
Yeah, whatever each character group motivation is required here, except for the cop, because he's just trying to figure shit out. And in that scene, that's the only, like, the zombies are one thing, right? They're the constant thing making our characters move forward. But the grid scene is like, you've got 30 seconds to live, and it's based entirely on your acrobat ability, and I think it culminates in, you know, when the main when one gets knocked off, this cool shot I'll never forget is when it like, you see the grid, you see like all the cuts in his body, and then like it soft focus switches from him to, I think, Milla Jovovich, and you just see him in the
foreground
just like cube out. And that to me is one of the coolest shots and coolest moments.
Like that is the reason people remembered this movie.
You think that one scene is the reason why people remember it?
I don't, like, it's not solely responsible, but it's like, it's the biggest contributor, I think. Yeah, definitely.
I think my favorite, that's like my favorite scene, but my favorite line from the film that I'll never forget is when one of the wounded soldiers, he tells them to go. He's like, go, and everyone leaves, and he gets the gun, and he like slowly puts it in his mouth. And then you hear the gunfire, and you think he's dead, and then it cuts back, and it's him throwing the gun into the pool of zombies, and he just says, "You're gonna have to work for your meal."
Yeah.
And then he moves on, and that line was it's so funny to me. I don't know why. It's just like, it's just the madness of a man realizing he's not going to get out of here. He's like, well, if I'm not going to make it out of here, I might as well make it difficult for them to eat me.
Yeah.
And that, I always just think of that line whenever I get attacked in a game where a big monster's trying to eat me, because it's just very relatable. You're going to have to work for your meal if you want this.
I think he did a good job, that actor. I don't know the actor's name, but Hackerman, like... Yeah, like, he's very much like one of the more panicked characters throughout the film. So for him to end his story that way, I think is very appropriate. Yeah, it was fine, yeah. How many stars?
I forget. Oh, man. 1.
Wow! Man, I was going to give it 2. I'm going to give it 2 stars.
You give it 2? I'm going to give it a 1. I'll do 1.5.
I'll give it 2 stars out of 5.
And that half is because I'm impressed they made 5 other films. Ted and I got to go to the premiere of the last film because Capcom invited us, and it was the red carpet premiere, and it was at the AMC in downtown LA next to the Nokia Center, or the Microsoft Center. And Ted and I were very confused because we did not come prepared in red carpet attire. And so we came in like jeans and gamer t-shirt, and we walk through there in security, and we get escorted inside, and then like 10 seconds later, Milla Jovovich is right behind us, like trying to get off of the red carpet, and we just surpassed it, and she like ran by us, and she almost bumped into me, and I like felt really bad. And then we went and watched this movie, and it was a film, I think.
Yep.
And I mean, look, I think the thing that I liked about seeing this red carpet premiere was that you were in the audience with the crew and the cast and the writers that made this movie. And even if I thought it was trash, and even if I didn't like what I was seeing, and even if I was the outlier in the room that was like, I can't believe they made 6 goddamn movies, my heart opened up like 10 times the size that day, because I was in the room with so many people who clearly loved and respected what they had been working on for the last 10, 15 years. And I have to give my respect to the people who made these movies and the franchises that they made them into. But in terms of the plot, in terms of the character growth, in terms of their development, in terms of what they ended up coming with, Paul, you're not a bad director, my dude. I wish you had a writing partner that you listened to.
Here we go.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to throw shade at Paul. It's just I
love how you're on a first name basis with this motherfucker.
Look, I mean, I'm Paul. Come on, Paul. Look, I'm a fat bearded neck guy on the internet with a podium. Yeah, like I'm Paul.
Bearded neck guy.
Paul, we know you watch Beard Bros. You know you take my criticism so you're looking at this guy with all these millions of subscribers and the Beard Bros fans. This guy knows what's up. I don't know fucking anything. I'm no better than anyone else who is watching these movies. I just have an opinion like we all do, and in the end, my opinion may be trash or better or for worse. But hey, it's what I feel.
Man, you're a true American. Shout outs to Resident Evil.
What do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean I'm a true American?
That line you said, like, my opinion may be trash, but hey, it's how I feel. Like, yeah, there it is. Shout outs to Resident Evil. You will live forever in undeath. Thanks for watching Beard Bros movie reviews. Next time we're gonna come with one more for you guys. It will not be a zombie movie.
No, and it won't be a video game movie either.
Correct. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Go watch Aliens. Bye-bye.
Oh! You won't go waggity sex no more. Waggity sex.
Kill that man.
No. Why not?
You
I can just take an elevator.
No more. Waggity sex.
Used to be wackety sax.
Waggity sex. Waggity sex. Waggity sex.